Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is episode 129 of the Audible Farm podcast. This episode's brought to you by Couchtown Coffee. Couchtown Coffee is roasted right here in Iowa, and every order that's made on the Couchtown Coffee website is specially prepared for whoever ordered it. That means if you order coffee, your coffee will be roasted specifically for you. It's not big batch coffee and let's hope somebody buys it. Oh no, this is special. This is the real deal, as a matter of fact. My favorite coffee, it is the coffee I drink every morning. And I'm not saying that just because Couchtown Coffee supports us. I'm saying it because it's the truth. Couchtown Coffee is my favorite coffee. So check it out. Go to www.couchtowncoffee.com, find a coffee you like, make an order, and when you do, you will receive 20% off if you enter the code word AudibleFarm. Why? Because Couchtown Coffee is that awesome. This episode, I'm sitting down with Zachary Daniels of the Zachary Daniels Band. Zach contacted me actually a couple months ago, and I finally got a hold of him. And I got to say, first and foremost, thanks to Zach for being patient. And I'm really glad we sat down and did this episode because he's such a cool guy. You know, it's one of those things I feel it's really wild that I'm running into so many awesome people in the music scene. And Zachary is definitely one of those people. It's hard to describe exactly what kind of music Zachary Daniels Band is. It kind of is one of those things where whoever's listening to it might have a different opinion. We go over all that in the upcoming episode, as well as recent releases and working on new music during this COVID era of music. There's not too many shows to be had out there, and Zachary and his band are kind of taking the time off, but not completely. They're making new music, and I can't wait to listen to it. So we go over that in the upcoming episode, as well as all sorts of good stuff. Band members, how the band came about, how he started playing music, his beginnings in that, and more. This is a really fun episode with a really great person. I hope you guys enjoy this as much as I did, because I had a great time sitting down with Zach. So check it out. It's episode 129 with Zachary Daniels of the Zachary Daniels.
It's the Audible Farm Podcast with your host, Peter Stockdale.
All right. So today I am sitting down with Zachary Daniels of the Zachary Daniels Band. We chatted a little bit before this, and I've looked at your stuff online. I've listened to it. It's very unique to the area. There's not too many people making a sound like you guys are making. One of the words I used as a descriptor when I was talking with you was big. It sounds very big, which is to me is a good thing. You were like, is that a good thing or not? And I'm like, yes, it's a very good thing. It's an odd descriptor for music, but you guys cover quite a wide sonic range. There's 5 of you, but I say 5. We'll air quote that 5. But how many people are in the band at this current moment?
Okay, so right now there are 3 of us in the band. There's me, obviously. I do lead vocals and acoustic guitar. I've got Alex, my bassist, and he also does some backup vocals. And then we have Michael, who is our keyboardist / synth guy. And then normally we also have a electric guitarist, lead / rhythm, whatever is needed, and a drummer. And but we recently lost those guys for one reason or another. No bad blood, just life.
Yeah. I mean, that definitely happens. I've gone through the lineup change in a band thing before, and it's like, most of the time people think, oh, there's bad blood here, and it's like, no, sometimes people just like get married, have a kid, and go somewhere else, get a different job, move away. Things happen.
Pretty much. Yeah, it's just like, okay, well, this sucks, but you do what's best for you. Like, we're not gonna. I'd feel even more of a jerk if I was like, no, you have to stay. Like, first off, I don't expect them to listen to me to begin with, but even if they did, I'd be like, oh, now I feel bad. Yeah,
and I totally get that. But the band has your namesake, and I'm I mean, we talked like I said, a tiny bit about this beforehand, but you're probably the singer-songwriter for most of this stuff. Did you start out as a singer-songwriter beforehand, solo, or how did you get started with writing your own music?
So yes, I am the singer songwriter, and of the group. I kind of help bring everything together, and then my guys. I always joke that it's like I create the base of the house, and the guys make it pretty.
Ooh, I like that analogy.
Yeah, and but I did start out as a solo singer songwriter. I've been in multiple bands. In my life, playing a variety of genres, and I just knew that I was like, well, I want to start a band around this style, but obviously you gotta find people first, and so I was just like, well, I might as well just play shows and just do my own thing for a while, kind of figure things out, meet people, whatever, network. And so yeah, I played a variety of shows by myself. I did a lot of covers only shows. I did plenty of original only shows and the like, until I found a number of people. I was just like, you want to just help me make this into a band? They're like, yeah, let's do it. And it's like,
that's awesome. That seems to be the route a lot of the singer-songwriter people have to end up going, because some people think we're, as a musician, we just know everybody, and it's like, look at this awesome music I'm writing, and you can just farm up anyone you want and just make an awesome band, but it's not always that easy.
No, it's not.
So how did you even get started playing music at all? Let me ask you that. Did you start in high school, or?
Yeah, actually I did. So I actually come from a fairly musical family. My dad's side of the family, whatever you want to call it. My dad's family a lot of them are singers. Like, we all love to sing, and so I grew up around that. And my dad liked to play guitar and stuff. So like I grew up in high school band and choir and all that stuff. And eventually I learned how to play the actual. I taught myself how to play the actual guitar, and just I don't know. I just kind of I hate saying like, oh, I naturally progressed into this, but that's just kind of how it happened. I was just like, I want to learn how to write. I always kind of liked poetry, so I guess I'm just gonna write songs now. So, but I didn't like really get serious about it until I hit college. I was just like, in high school, it's like, yeah, this is kind of fun. Let's try it out. But
yeah,
after college, I'm like, all right, I want to actually do this now.
Mm-hmm. I feel like that is actually a route a lot of people take. When I was giving guitar lessons to people, they were like, I mean, this is so hard. How do I learn this? I can't learn guitar. And I just tell everyone, if you want to, you can. I mean, it comes down to
exactly.
If you're curious enough and you have the drive to do it, you're going to be able to play it. Because that's literally all any of us did, was we were just like, how do you do this? I'm going to figure this out. And it sounds like that's how you did it too. Like, how do I make a song? Well, we need lyrics, and how should the chords go? And it's like, well, maybe like this. And then before you know it, you're writing music.
Yeah. I literally went out to, I think it was Walmart or one of those stores. I bought one of those big posters that have all the guitar chords on them. I taped it to my wall. I sat in front of it, and I was just like, okay, how do I do is this the G chord? And then I just, that's how I learned all my basic chords. I didn't pay for lessons or anything like that. I mean, I got lessons for bass and drums and stuff. I'm a multi-instrumentalist, but for guitar, I just was like, nope, I'm just gonna teach myself this. That's how I'm gonna do it, and that's how it happened. So
yeah. I mean, going back to those posters that you can get at Walmart and stuff. I have a few of those at my house, and it's one of those things where when people find out you're first learning guitar, they're like, here's a neat little thing. And then the funniest thing about those posters is you can look at some of them, and it's like, oh, well, this G they have on here, the only G they have listed on here is a G bar chord. What's up with that? And so sometimes those posters are a little bit of a misnomer to people, where you're like, this doesn't make any sense. I don't get this. How come the G's are different? But that's another one of those things where you just have to learn the next thing, to be like, oh, true. Bar chords. Oh, okay. I gotcha.
Yeah. And I was a step behind on that one. Oops.
Yeah. Excuse me. Oh man. Okay.
You're
So
fine.
so how did you end up meeting all these people? Was it literally just going to shows and one by one you kind of corralled them in, or did you have to like, ask some people to join the band, or was it, somebody said this sound is awesome and I want in on some of this?
It it was a little bit of a mix of the first two. So Michael, my keyboardist, I actually, when I was starting to put the band to like really put the band together, because like I said, I did solo stuff for a long time. There was one point where I'm like, I'm just gonna do solos for a bit. I'm not gonna worry about the band. And then when I started putting the band together, I already knew my keyboardist, Michael. We met through other friends and stuff, and I was like, I literally just put out a message on my Facebook page and on my personal Facebook. I'm like, I think I'm going to take a crack out of building a band again around this style. I'm looking for these instruments. And I think I also, originally wasn't sure if I wanted keys, but I'm like, I also wouldn't mind having a keyboardist. Is anybody interested? And Michael messaged me. He's like, if you're looking for a key player, I'm your guy. And I already knew he was really good. So I was just like, you're in. No audition necessary. You're in. And so he's been with me since pretty much day one. But the other guys, our original electric guitarist I found through, I think it was Craigslist, or some like one of those websites. I had put out an ad and he emailed in and was like, yeah, I'm interested. I really like your style. But the rest of the guys were pretty much the rest of the guys were either through like Craigslist or like Facebook classifieds, or I met them through other people at like shows and stuff. So it was just like, it was kind of most of it was kind of more old school / digital networking skills. I'm trying to like, well, like there's Craigslist isn't exactly old school. It kind of is, but
It kind of is now,
whatever you want to call it. But yeah, it was just more of the semi-traditional networking techniques.
Yeah, I mean that's one of those things. I feel like everybody that wants to try to form a band, we all had to go about it in different ways. Like there were, I mean, back in the day, I'm saying back in the day, but like in the 90s and prior, people used to have to like either just go to shows and talk to people, or hang out at the music shop and just wait to see who walked in and played what, or the music shop thing's a fun one because there used to be like bulletin boards and you just post your stuff on there and be like, I'm looking for this kind of a guy. And on your way out the door, you'd look at it and be like, I might give that guy a call, So there's
it's actually sorry to interrupt you.
Do it.
But it's actually funny that you mentioned that, because like in the area that I live in the Waterloo Cedar Falls area, that still exists. Because there's some music shops in the area, and they have like bulletin boards, and I've seen them plenty where it's like a lot of them. From what I understand, I think a lot of them are like cover bands, but still like it's still a band. Like it's music. And so like I'll be walking out, like I'll go in to like buy some new strings or something, and I'll walk out, and you see like the tabbed posters, and it's like bass player needed, yada yada, then they have the phone number on the tab, and you rip one off or whatever. So, but it's definitely not used as frequently now as it used to. Cause yeah, I'm no spring chicken, but at the same time, I'm too young to have seen this myself, but it's like I've heard plenty of stories from older musicians that I've talked to. They're like, you'd see them on you'd see those kind of things like taped to light pole, like poles on the street, along with like posters to shows and junk, because they didn't have the internet to advertise.
Yeah. Let me ask you this then. This is something that a couple people have brought up here and there. Do you feel that promoting on the internet is as useful as it used to be, or do you feel that like people might actually have some benefit to hanging up a poster now and then? The only thing I want to say before that is, do you think that like all I imagine is if you had posters and you were going to staple them to telephone poles around town, like somebody'd probably call the cops and say you're littering, like at this rate anymore. But do you think that do you think that kind of marketing is dead, or which one do you think is more beneficial nowadays?
So that's an interesting question, because I definitely think that online marketing has become basically oversaturated. There's so many different channels, but like as much as I love to see people playing music, everybody and their mom has a band nowadays, it seems like. So it's like you no matter where you go, you see a million other people posting about their shows or their music or whatever, and that's great, but that's oversaturation and it blends together. So there's definitely I definitely think that there is merit, and I say this as like a social media marketer and like web administrator. There's definitely merit to switching up your style, and if that means going back more old school and going to hang around some posters around town, do it. There's not as people tend to be more inside people nowadays, but there's still plenty of people that go outside. And there's plenty of folks that aren't connected to the internet as much as like some of the like me or somebody else my age are. There's plenty of people that aren't going to see your Facebook ad or whatever. They'll probably see the poster that you hung up at the grocery store or whatever, like wherever there's a bulletin board.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's definite merit. You definitely like the biggest key of the game is you got to switch it up. You got to be different. And because if you do the same thing, some of the stuff that other people are doing might work, but if all you're doing is the same thing that everybody else is doing, what makes you special?
Yeah, it's very, very true. You hit the nail on the head about the Facebook thing. I mean, we all just think everyone has Facebook and everyone's always on Facebook and they see everything that gets posted. Very much not the case. I'm sure you look at the stats just as much as I do and see that I've got about 1,000 followers. I made a post, 100 people saw it. What? Yep. And it's just like, that doesn't make any sense, and then you're like, well, I'll share it in a few groups. There's those Iowa music groups. There's like 50 of them for some reason. Everyone wants to have one. Heck, Audible Farm has one. Mine's the best, whatever. I get it. I almost never posted mine anymore because there's only like 200 people in it. But like the music groups on Facebook actually do help out a little bit. But, once again, if you start over posting in them, it might oversaturate. And I've had some people say that like opening up an email, like a mailing list, is actually beneficial. So like if you have back in the day, it was just like, I got a bazillion emails and I don't want to ever see another email again. But now it's kind of weirdly turning back to an email's not so bad anymore, and if I get an email from a band, it might be kind of cool. It feels a little bit personal.
Yeah, I think part of that too is actually just kind of boiling down to the age-old tactic of just knowing your audience. Because if you play classic rock or another style of music that, let's face it, is geared more towards older folks in a general sense, you're probably going to want to gear your marketing techniques to that direction. So more physical advertisements, probably some email marketing, and stuff like that. But if you play like super, super, super poppy stuff, or like something geared more towards and I'm being general, very overarching here, nothing super specific, but something more geared towards a younger audience, then you probably want to shift more digital and stuff like that. But like I said before, I mean, and I'm no expert. I'll say this right now. I'm no expert. I did go to school for marketing, but I've still got a long ways to go. But that's just the one thing I do know, is that you definitely shift your marketing towards your audience because it's going to pop more. But you still want to change it up. Yeah. And do because it's like I said, especially over Facebook and stuff like that, it's a lot of that's super oversaturated, and you're still gonna. If you change it up and check it to check your rock into a couple different avenues, you're likely to hit a cat at some point.
Ooh, yeah.
That was a really that was a bad metaphor I just thought up at the top of my head. So I'm sorry.
Dude, Peta, I'll get. They're gonna get. No, I'm just kidding. No, but like I totally get. I totally get what you're saying, though. I feel like you're wording this all very well, actually. You know, because this is all generally speaking. You know, I know some older people like pop music, and some younger people like rock music. You know, and it just is what it is. But
yeah.
Oh man. So do you have any like difficulties in today's day and age as far as like playing shows? I know beforehand we had talked a little bit about like COVID and things like that being a little bit of a deterrent as far as playing shows, but you were also talking about playing live streams. So you have a little bit of experience playing shows.
Yeah, so like as far as traditional shows go, the band and I, like, we all talked and made the conscious decision to, until things are like, until like more people get the vaccine, like ourselves included, and things are just generally on the safer route, we're probably not going to be playing like live shows where it's not safe. But yeah, we have played a couple live streams and stuff like that, where it's a bit more secluded and stuff, because we want to play music as much as anybody else does. That's a band, that's our craft, it's what we love to do. But yeah, we've just been kind of trying to take things more or less a day at a time, figure out where things are going, and just playing it safe. Like I said, we've done a couple live streams through Spicoli's Reverb in Cedar Falls, and because they've been doing some live streams with different bands, and I'm pretty closely associated with them. So there's like, you want to do a live stream? It's like, yeah. Like, did you really have to ask? Yeah, so those have been super fun and a cool way to still be able to entertain people safely and everything like that. But other than that, we haven't really done much. We've been just we've been working on. We worked on our EP that we put out last December, and then we've been kind of getting some other stuff churned up for future release. So
that EP, that's the 2020 release, Home, right?
Yep. Yes, exactly. Yep.
And in case anyone's wondering, it's available everywhere. Not just like you have to buy a physical copy. I mean, it seems to be the way everything's going now, but it's available everywhere. So you can stream it on Spotify, Google Play, Apple Music, wherever you listen to music.
It's actually really funny because of the lack of shows. We actually flipped it, and we actually don't have any physical copies at all right now, because one of the only places that you are really selling, unless you have like a big distributor deal, one of the biggest places a band sells their CDs is at a show, and we don't. And so because there's no real shows going on right now, or we don't have a lot of other channels set up for merch distribution, we're just like, let's do it later.
Yeah.
when things calm down. But they are of it. Like if you do want to buy one, we have a Bandcamp, Zachary Daniels Band.bandcamp.com. And you can buy one there. They're $5 for a 5-track EP. Otherwise, yeah, like you said, Peter, it is on like Spotify, iTunes, you name it, it's probably on there. The only one I don't think we're on is SoundCloud.
Yeah.
I'm not even positive on that one. I have to look.
Oh, well, you're not missing out too much on SoundCloud. I mean,
no, I know
people might argue that, but it's mostly just rappers and podcasts, which my podcast is hosted on SoundCloud, but whatever, like not to down talk SoundCloud too much, but, and if they're listening, I love you, SoundCloud. But you're right. You're right though. When you said like you sell most of your physical copies of things at shows. Three Finger Betty, the band I'm in, recently released an album, and we've sold some stuff on the Bandcamp page. But we did play a live show not terribly long ago and sold far more at the live show, and one live show, than we have in like 2 months on Bandcamp. Not that people aren't buying on Bandcamp, because believe it or not, they are. I mean, it's one of those weird things, because it's like if they don't have anything else available to them, they'll go buy your stuff here, because if it's the only way they can listen to it and they like your stuff, they'll definitely do it. So, I mean, if bands don't have Bandcamp pages, I suggest setting them up. They're free. The Bandcamp takes a tiny fee. As a matter of fact, this will come out Thursday, so tomorrow's Bandcamp Friday, if I'm not mistaken. So go check out Zachary Daniels Band on Bandcamp.com. You'll give them 100% of the money goes straight to the band on Bandcamp Fridays. So so check it out. That'd be a great way to support them if you're looking to support the Zachary Daniel Band. So excuse me. But yeah, I mean, as far as playing shows and things like that, I've played a few shows when what I would call like the COVID years, in the last year since everything shut down, because it has almost been a whole calendar year. But I've only played a few shows that are, I would call public shows, and most of them have been giant warehouses that are empty, where it's just like, we're going to book a show, but we're going to let people in, but this place is like a 200 by 100 foot building, and you guys can all stand 20 feet apart if you want. It doesn't matter. Those are fun. It was great to go to those shows and realize people are still willing to go out, even if you had to yell hi to them from way away. You're like, hey, just give them the wink, and it's like, I'll talk to you on Facebook later. But even then, it was still pretty good, And you were talking about doing live streams, done a couple of those. The craziest part about doing a live stream is that actually, I feel like it gives you a different kind of exposure. I feel like different people check in on the live streams than would normally go to see you live. Have you seen that in your experience too?
Yeah, there is actually there's quite a bit of truth to that, because this is the best way I can really explain it. You catch a lot more of the introverts that way.
Ooh, yeah.
But yeah, but yeah, there's quite a few people that, but especially not really just introverted people, but like live streams open things up more to like a bunch of different kinds of folks that don't normally get the opportunity to go to shows, people with families, or if they've got like if they're working late at night, but like happen to still be able to put their phone on or whatever. And there's like all other like truck drivers that want to listen in, anything like that. And people that don't normally get the opportunity to go to shows on a regular basis, they can just like, oh, I just can tune in on my phone or on my computer or whatever, and be able to see the show. And while it's true, it's not the same as like live music. It's, to me anyway, and I'm sure plenty of people disagree with me, but this is me. It's the closest thing we got right now that's safe. And like, to me personally, I've had my own, I haven't had COVID, thankfully. I did have a scare though, and it like completely opened up my eyes. Like, I locked myself away for like a week, and then I found out it was all good. And I was like, okay. But now I'm just like, all right, let's mask on everywhere.
Dude, yeah, and I feel you. Like, I went through the same thing, and we'll just say it was the similar experience I had to you. Was I was just like, I'm sick, and I just stayed at home for like literally almost 30 days straight. I like didn't leave my house because I was like, I don't want to get anyone sick. I don't want to go somewhere knowing I might get someone sick. So there is, like you said, a little bit of that weird safety thing about doing the live streams. One of the other benefits I would say would be, I live in northern Iowa. If I want to go to Des Moines to a show, it's 2 hours. If I want to go to Waterloo, it's 2 hours. Anywhere I want to go is like a 2 hour drive. So it's kind of nice to be able to be like sitting at my house on Facebook and just be like, scroll. Oh, this band's playing something. I'll check it out for a half an hour or so. And it might be someone I haven't seen live before. And that might be the only time I'll get to see them live this year or last year. You never know. So I've been checking it out.
Yeah, it's very true. Very true. I didn't even think about that either.
And one of the other odd things is like COVID has squashed a couple bands. A few bands have gone away because COVID. And it's not like COVID is the reason it went away, but some bands just can't make it through this time period. It's kind of fun to be able to be like, well, I saw them at least do a live stream 6 months ago, so that's kind of neat. I never got to see them live, but there is that live stream that's out there forever to be able to go watch. So. That is really cool to have that as like an availability to you as well.
Right. That is very, very true. And it's really sad to see, like you mentioned, the bunch of different bands kind of falling apart because of like the pandemic and everything. I've actually had a few of my friends' bands fall apart because they're like they've got families and stuff. They're not able to practice, or like some of them lost their jobs, and so they're not able to really afford their lives back on track. It's just like, well, the band kind of falls to the wayside, and so it's breaks your heart as a musician. It really does, because it's like I want to see everybody succeed, at least in some fashion. I don't want to see it fall apart. That sucks.
Yeah. I feel like one of the things that might be the most difficult, like you said, is, if you don't have the financial backing, and, to most of us, music is a hobby. It's a runaway hobby. It's an extreme hobby, but it's it's a hobby. So,
Yes.
if something's got to go, unfortunately, music's the thing that's got to go. And sometimes bands don't get together. I mean, like I said, I've played one show, and one of the bands, they went, like, I can't remember what they said, 10 months or something, and hadn't seen each other. And they still went and played a show. They went and played a show, and it was actually killer. Like, I don't know how they stayed that tight. I don't know how they stayed that tight and not ever practicing, but it was insanely good. So hats off to, the bands that are still out there trying, regardless of the fact that they can't get together. And I think one of the best things a band could probably do, if you have to quarantine yourselves away like this, is to work on new material. And that leads me to asking you, as the singer-songwriter of the band, like you said, you're building the bases of the house here. You got the frame. You're setting up the framework. Are you doing that now when you can't go out and play too many shows?
Yes, actually, that is very much what we are doing. A while back, I had a habit of I had like a wave of inspiration. I'm not really sure how else to say it. And I wrote like 4 or 5 songs within like a 2-3 week period. Whoa. And it was a lot. I surprised myself. I'm like, hang on a second, what's going on right now? But then of course the well ran dry right after that. But we went, like, we were talking, we just got home released and everything. We were talking like, all right, that's done. Now what do we do? And it's like, well, let's just record more stuff. So we are working on, we're taking a bunch of our backlog songs, we're making them really cool, brushing them up, and recording full band versions. And we're gonna try to. We haven't fully decided yet if. It's going to eventually be an EP, but we haven't decided yet, like, when anything's going to be released, or when the single's going to come out or anything like that. We actually just started recording the first song like a week ago, and so progress has been good. Progress has been very good, and I'm extremely excited to get this stuff released. But yeah, we just started working on new material not that long ago. I'm excited to keep working.
I feel like that's actually one of the weird benefits. We were talking about how, like, maybe digital marketing might not be the best way to market yourself anymore, but don't discount digital stuff altogether, because in today's digital age, you guys could all sit in a different room in a different house and record stuff and send it all over and plug it all in together and not even have to really be in the same room together and do stuff. Is that the route you guys are going to take with this, or is it, are you going to try and do the whole, like, You can come over, but we're all going to wash our hands and shower you in rubbing alcohol, and you're going to stand in the corner, and then that's how you're going to do it. I guess I know everyone's got their own way of doing this, but you can do it all digitally, is my big point. But how are you guys going to try go about recording this?
I keep my hazmat suit in my closet. No, we kind of do a mix of that. Michael actually lives in the Des Moines area right now, and so because of distance, I've told him plenty of times, like, you don't have to be in the band if you don't want to drive. He's like, no, I'm gonna do it. So I'm like, I'm okay. Like, hats off to you, dude.
Yep.
Like, we're happy to have you, but yeah, he lives there right now, and so, like, because of COVID, but also because of distance and everything, he records a lot of his stuff digitally. He's got all technology at his place, and it's great. And but Alex and I do a lot of the recording in person, just to make sure, especially with like acoustic guitar, that we can get everything mic'd up properly, and everything like that, and just get the best tone possible. But like I also have recording equipment of my own, pretty decent quality, if I can say so myself. And so I've done like my fair share of recording, like digital recording, here, and then sent it over. It just depending on what's needed. When we were putting together some of the songs for Home, I was just like, oh crap, we forgot to record some backup parts, or I wanted to throw in a harmony here or something, and I wasn't able to set up a schedule, like a good time, because like I was working or Alex was working or something. So I was like, screw it, I'm just gonna record it at my house. I'll send it to the Google Drive. Like it took 20 minutes.
Yeah. That is actually some of the other benefit. A lot of people, you can record at your own house and it really doesn't cost that much. If you have a laptop, you can get a microphone that is decent enough for like $100 and an interface that works that's decent enough for like $100, and boom, you can record stuff. And I said, we're talking $200 and you can record anything you want on almost any instrument, and granted, you and I both know you can have better interfaces or better microphones. You could spend thousands on this stuff if you want, but
Sure.
Case in point, it literally only takes a couple $100 to record stuff and have it be very passably good. I've recorded stuff in my basement, and I'm recording a podcast, but like I'm not like a musical recording guy. I can record music, but I'm kind of just stabbing at the dark here, trying to figure it out. And it actually sounds okay, and it's kind of funny to think about that, where it's like, you don't really have to be a pro at this. You don't have to go to school for this to be like that awesome at it, and the internet's a great place to go look up information if you don't know it. You can even type in, sure, I'm recording this instrument with this mic and this interface, and somebody has done that before, and it'll tell you exactly how to do it.
Yeah, I can't tell you the number of times YouTube has saved my headache from being, because like I actually control, or I actually this isn't the subject of today's interview, but I actually run my own podcast as well. It's very different, but like I'll be doing mixing stuff for that, and I'm just like, how am I going to get this? Like one of my people will have like too many plosives or something, and I'm like, how am I going to fix this? It sounds like junk. And so I'll go to YouTube, and I'm like, how do I do this? Mm-hmm. And then it's just like, here's exactly how you do it. And it's like, thank you. Thank you so much. And the same goes for like, when I'm trying to record music, like if the program's not working properly, or if I want to do something a certain way, like you said, with like the amps or whatever, you can just Google it, and I'm sure that you'll be able to figure it out quick enough. Anyway, it'll take some doing, take some trial and error, but you can make it work.
So what's your podcast then? Let's talk about that a little bit. Why not plug it?
Yeah, sure. So my podcast is, much like my band's style, is different. It's actually an audio drama, or a radio play, I guess you could call it. It's based around the Fallout video game series. It's called Wasteland Active Radio. And it's based in the Midwest. Like the Illinois, Indiana, Minnesota area, but a lot of the Midwest. And it's about a ghoul, which for anybody listening who doesn't know anything about Fallout, a ghoul is a human being that's been irradiated so much that their skin and everything is really, really shriveled up, and they look like they're 100, because most of the time they actually are older than that. They tend to, by some weird biology trick with the radiation, they tend to live for like hundreds of years, but they look like zombies. But like they sound like this most of the time. They sound like they've been smoking for 20 years. And I'm not the voice of the guy, by the way, of the main character. But right. But we have our main character, who is a ghoul, and he goes from the East Coast to the Midwest and sets up a fixes up an old radio station and tries to build a community around it, like a settlement. And we have a couple different characters, both main and guest stars, that have come in and out. We've been doing it for a little over a year and a half now. Our story is slated to end this July. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, pretty much anywhere you could find a digital podcast. Our first season is on SoundCloud, but we ran out of room.
Yeah. Oh man, that's the downside of SoundCloud. You have to pay money if you want more room, and meh.
Yeah, if we set up for the free version at first, and then after like 7 or 8 episodes or something, like, I can't remember how many it was, there's like, yeah, you're almost out of room. Do you want to pay for the next thing? And we're just like, yeah, I guess. So we did that, and then I realized when we were like the second to last episode of our first season, it was like, wait, we literally have enough room for one more episode. So, and then we'd have to bump up again, and we're both just like, no, that's not happening.
Yeah.
But thankfully I found another program to get us out of Spotify and junk. And so I was like, all right, let's do this.
That's good. I mean, literally if anybody's looking for podcast stuff, I guess, like all you have to do is have an RSS feed that you can send to everywhere else. So I guess if you're savvy enough, you can do it that way. I used to, when I was younger, do things like that. Now I'm just kind of like, I'll pay somebody the money, just do it for me, So I'll pay SoundCloud, I guess, for both of us. But you do have 2 albums that have come out as far as Zachary Daniels Band, and the 2 albums, the first one was called Evolve. It was 2019, and so then you had one in 2020 that just recently came out, and that one's called Home. And you've got a new one coming out that, there's no date slated, but you're in the process of recording it. And do you think that's going to be a 2021 release or maybe 2022?
Potentially 2022. But I mean, I'll put it this way. I'm hoping we can release it this year, but I'm not positive. It just depends on... right now we're off to a good start. We're thinking the EP will probably end up being a 5 or 6 track EP again. Mm-hmm. It seems like a good number. Yeah. But it just depends on how fast production happens, and everything like that, and if everything sounds the way, progresses and sounds the way that we want it to go. I'm hoping we can release it later this year. If not, though, I would not be surprised, and nobody should be surprised if it goes into 2022.
Yeah. Do you think that, you did release Home in 2020, so that was, COVID era release.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? Because we did the same thing in one of my bands. We released an album in November of 2020, and, as far as like, do you think it was received as well as it could have been? Do you think everybody knew about it? Do you think everyone is aware of it? Do you think you could have done better if there was actually live shows and you could have promoted it at a live show, or is a CD release show even a thing that should be done anymore? I guess. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I know for a fact that it would have gotten better received if we could have pushed it at live shows, but because all of our material usually there's been a trend of that, but I still enjoy the concept of CD release shows. We had one for Evolve, and it was huge. Granted, we also did it on St. Patrick's Day weekend, but there was hardly anybody there wearing green. So most of it was for the CD release. At least that's what I tell myself. But so it was decently well received, in my opinion, but definitely could have been better. The biggest thing I told my guys this a bunch, that with everything going on with COVID, we actually planned the release of we planned and started recording home in like January or February before lockdown happened.
Oof.
And so like we didn't rush anything or anything like that, but the biggest thing was like I wanted, with everything going on, it's like I still wanted to release in 2020 because it's like I wasn't going to let COVID win, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to have, it was the holiday season. I thought, some people might want to listen to some, new stuff, sort of like kind of like our gift for you, but mostly you need to buy it, like kind of thing. And it was well enough received in terms of like a lot of people, gave us compliments about it, talked to us about it. Not a lot of people bought it, but it's only been a couple of months, and I mean I didn't expect to like, digitally this is impossible, so quote unquote sell out or anything like that. But I mean, we're not that big or anything like that. But I was just like, I didn't expect a rush of sales, but I was just like, oh, well, not as much as I expected. But oh well, like as long as people listen to the songs, people really like it, and there's been decent traction on it. So, and it's actually been getting better since its release. So
that's actually, I think, the biggest metric you need to look at as far as releasing something digitally. I'm in a couple like Bandcamp groups, and I go to like the Reddit Bandcamp pages and see what people post. And like the biggest joke as far as most of that stuff is like when you first release something, like say you release in December, it's like we got thousands of listens, and then it was January and we got maybe a couple hundred, and then it was February and we got a couple dozen. That's the route a lot of music takes, and if that's not the route your music took digitally online, I think you did it right then. That means it's picking up steam is what it means, as opposed to just being like the newness has worn off, what's the next EP from the next band, who cares, and it's right. I hate to say that like that's the way a lot of music goes online, but it is. And the other thing is you start to figure out where your dedicated fan base is though too after a while, if you start to look at your online stats. So
Very true.
I guess like the next thing would be like, I know you're in the Waterloo area, Waterloo, Cedar Falls.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming though that you've played shows outside of the area though. I'm sure you've traveled down maybe to Cedar Rapids area or gone out to the eastern Iowa area and done some of that stuff. How have you done so far for traveling? I mean, obviously this year's been more difficult, but
we've done a decent amount of traveling for shows. Not in the grand scheme of things, not as much as I'd like, but it is what it is. I'll take what I can get, kind of thing. I am not ever complaining for the opportunity to play a show, no matter where it is. But we've played a few shows in Iowa City. We've played a show in Fairfield, which is in southern Iowa, kind of around the Quad Cities area, a little bit south of that. We've played plenty of shows in Des Moines. We've even played a show in St. Paul. That was fun.
Cool.
I was really excited about that one. That was a good time. But I'm trying to think where else we've played. Like plenty of shows in the Waterloo, Cedar Falls area. But yeah, in terms of a lot of the traveling, it's more or less those areas within about an hour and a half, 2 hour distance away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems to be the area where most people go is about an hour or two away from their home base, and it kind of seems to be a little tougher to stretch any further than that. Nextly, I guess the question would be, do you guys do a lot of solo shows? Like, do you play alone, or do you usually split the bill with other bands?
We usually split the bill.
All right.
Yeah, we have played solo shows before. We have the ability. We know like enough covers and originals. We can make like 3 to 4 hour shows happen.
Nice.
And actually we did like a 3 hour show right before lockdown hit. There was a bar in Waterloo that opened, and they were looking for a band to play their grand opening, and I got us on the bill for that. We just did a 3, like we had just lost our other 2 guys that are, well, I know we lost one of them, and I think the other one just wasn't available. I can't remember for sure. My memory sucks anymore, but it was being honest, But we did a show as a 3-piece, acoustic guitar, bass, and keys, and it went off. It actually went off really well. We played mostly cover songs, and it was pretty well received. The owner gave me a hug after the show. It was like, yeah, little did I know later, right? No,
Yeah,
I'm kidding.
that's cool. That's totally cool.
But no, it was a good time. And then like shortly after that, everything shut down, and it's like, oh well, guess we're not playing shows for a while. But yeah, we most of the time though, whenever we've played a show, we split the bill with other bands. It's like, yeah, you don't make as much money, but it's fantastic for networking. I met a lot of my super good music friends from doing that, because it's just like, oh my God, I didn't know you were so talented. Let's hang out sometime. And
Oh, I mean that is true though. Playing out there with other people, it kind of gets you the ability to be like, wow, I didn't know you had the ability to do all this cool stuff, you know. And
yeah.
And I mean, I figured I'd had to ask if you guys split the bill with other people though too, because you said, you know, you'd done solo shows and you did covers and originals, and I figured if you did both of those, you could probably cover 3 or 4 hours, you know, as a band. So
Yeah.
So like, let's talk a little. I mean, we haven't really we discussed the music, and I think the only adjective I've used so far is big. So so you guys, like, I don't know if I would call you guys like necessarily a rock and roll band. I'm using air quotes, but you guys are like a rock band, but you still have that singer songwriter feel to it, you know. And that's something that I really like, because around my area there's a lot of bands that end up going that route, and for some reason I really enjoy that, where it's like you can tell somebody poured their heart and soul into this, and they found a bunch of really good friends to help them live this out, you know. And that's one of the things I feel like is you know, really special about some of the singer songwriter music. But you know, once you start mixing in keyboards and leads and everything else, it's like you can't really just call it, like I said, rock and roll. It kind of swings into like almost an alternative kind of area too. It's hard to describe exactly what your music would be with just a couple words. So let me ask you this: how would you describe your band's sound?
So we've always put us under kind of a Venn umbrella, as it were. We kind of call ourselves just like a mixture of pop rock and alternative rock. I've had somebody even go so far as to call us indie alternative, which I think kind of works.
Yeah.
But like, there was a long time where we didn't know. We didn't have a, like, even we didn't have a word. It's like, what do you sound like? We're gonna play in like 10 minutes. I'll show you. Like,
yeah.
But it's just gotten to the point where it's just like, yeah, we play a mixture of pop rock and alternative rock. A lot of people tell us that we have a big 90s flair, which is, I consider an extremely heavy compliment, because that's where a lot of 90s and early to mid 2000s are like big influences of mine, just in general. But yeah, it's definitely kind of in the alternative area. I like to stick around. Yeah, I don't have an actual set. Like, there's so many subgenres nowadays. I have no idea where we would fall. If anybody listening could, like, if you're able to pinpoint a subgenre and you want to like post on our Facebook page what you think it is, I will welcome that. I will welcome that wholeheartedly.
I agree with the subgenre thing, because you can subgenre a band to death. You can be like, well, we're an alt rock, indie, you know, post grunge core, you know, and you just start like throwing them all together, and it's like, well, what are you really, you know? And I totally get it, because it is hard to say like we are this and this is the closest thing you can say we are. It'd be like trying to describe a color. Like, what does blue look like? And you're like, well, you know, it's kind of like green and a little bit like purple and sort of, you know, it's like, it doesn't really work out too well. But I also think that your guys' musical style probably lends you to be able to play with a lot of different styles of bands or at a lot of different styles of places, you know, because it's like we said, it's almost like you're like a six-legged stool. You could kick one of the legs out and it's like, well, it doesn't matter. We could still stand on these five legs, you know, and so so you have this wide area of what I would call like your musical birth for that, you know, and like, do you guys play with a decently wider range of bands or?
We have, yeah. And that was actually one thing that I can't say that I planned for it. I can't say that at all. But that is something that I had hoped for when originally putting this group together, was that the style was going to be wide enough. There was going to be some sort of spectrum, so that way we were more marketable. And yeah, we've played with hard rock bands. We've played with metal bands. We've played with punk bands. We've played with indie groups and like solo acoustic people, and there's definitely, like, most of the time we do get billed with more like rock bands, because rock is a pretty, like, while we're not, like you said, air quotes, a rock and roll band, there's enough of a rock element to our music where most promoters throw us in there. We're probably more apt to be booked with more of like the rock centric bands than like the pop ones, even though a good probably quarter to half of our sound is extremely poppy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's actually really cool, because if I had to sit down and draw lines between the genres, I would say for the most part there's like a metal, rock, and punk crowd on one side, and then there's like a country-ish kind of a feel on another side, and then there's like an indie crowd, and they don't really always cross very much as far as promotion-wise. But you said that you had the ability to play with at least two of those. I mean, you can go indie all the way over to maybe even playing with some metal bands, so that's got to give you some fun bits of exposure. But it's also probably gives you a little bit more of a, you know, a general way of looking at the music scene than most people, because some people will only play with the same 10 or 15 bands total ever, you know, and you guys have the ability to at least see what else is out there as far as music wise.
Right. And yeah, and I will actually go so far as to say we've been told by a couple of people that we sound country. So it was really funny that you say that.
Dude, that's true though. Nothing against those country dudes.
Anything. Oh no, nothing at all. No, I have a pretty decent respect for country artists. I grew up listening. My mother is a big country fan, Vince Gill and Garth Brooks and like a lot of the classics. So I grew up with a lot of that stuff. And so like I have a, I mean, I won't say it's my favorite genre, but I respect it enough that it's like, if it comes on the state radio station, I'm not going to turn the channel.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was not anything off of Home, but one or two of the songs off of our previous record, Evolve. We had a few people online. There's like giving like reviews and stuff. There's like, what, like if I was gonna, you know, if I was gonna pick any kind of genre, this sounds like country-esque to me, and I'm just like, okay, I don't hear that at all, but that's your opinion, I guess. I mean, it's not an insult at all, but I was just like, it caught me out of left field.
I mean, some of that's a testament to the new country sound that's coming out, though, because that new country is like weirdly poppy, R&B, almost a touch of rap. You know, it's got like an urban feel instead of like a country feel. You know, instead of like we're all out, cowboys out at home on the range. It's like it's cowboys with 4-wheel drive trucks driving up and down the loop in downtown whatever big city, you know. So
sure.
I mean, it is what it is. I do moonlight and play a little bit of country here and there with a buddy of mine, and I mean,
nice.
I do mostly bluesy kind of stuff, so it's more like blues infused country, because I'm not much of a chicken picker or a big fan of being super clean guitars. So you know, I do take his new country style and blend it with mine, and it ends up being whatever it ends up being. But you know, there's definitely nothing wrong with those new country guys. They draw just as big of a crowd as anybody else. I mean, they're playing just as much fun music as we are, and that's something else I'm sure everyone went through this at some point in their life. But I grew up and I was just kind of like, my music that I like is the best music, and everybody else's music sucks. And I liked metal, and it's just like, eventually you grow up and you're like, wow, these guys that are playing bluegrass are shredding, you know? And then you're just like, I want to learn how to do some of this stuff. And going to jam nights and seeing more live bands gave me a lot more respect for, you know, all the different types of music. And I feel like, you know, that's something that is probably pretty apparent in your music style as it's been, you know, like we have described so much in this podcast. You could literally just say it's a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And I don't view you as somebody, at least not now, that turns your nose up at musical styles, you know?
No, I'll put it this way. I try really hard not to. There's some, like, it's really funny you say, like, you know, you used to play metal and stuff like that with you know, my music's the best, because I had a very similar phase. I used to play in a post-hardcore band. I played bass, and we thought we were badass, and we're like, this is the best thing ever made. And metal's like, but even then, I was like, in terms of other genres in general, I was still like, I still listened to other stuff outside of metal, but it was still like, you know, punk and like alternative rock and stuff like that. I didn't like really actively listen to a lot of the other stuff, but yeah, like there's plenty of music genres that I'm just like, if it sounds good, I'll listen to it. I really don't care. You know, jazz, classical, bluegrass, Americana, there's some of that avant-garde stuff I'm not really 100% positive on if it's actually, you know, sound or not, but you know, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, some of that stuff, I think, like, give it 10 years because, you know, sometimes I feel like this is like a cutting edge thing and not everyone jumps in on the cutting edge thing yet. And then you give it 10 or 15 years, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, now this is like a commonplace thing and everyone can kind of get in on it a little bit more. You know, it's like an electric car, you know, 15, 20 years ago, people are like, what? How do I even get an electric car? What do you charge this thing? I mean, it'd be neat to have one, but I don't know how they work. And now now everyone's got a Tesla, you know, no, not everybody, but you get the gist, you know?
Yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah. And that is a very fair point. But yeah, I like I said earlier, I try my absolute hardest. I mean, I'm not a snob. That's that much I know for sure. I'm not snooty towards anybody. If they're trying to make art, more power to you. Mm-hmm. I'll if it's not my cup of tea, I'm not gonna give you crap for trying to make what makes you happy. So
yeah. I mean, some of that to me was just like being blown away that somebody wrote something that like my brain would have never thought about. It's like,
for sure.
This is so cool. I would have never thought of putting those notes together, these chords or those words, or having a keyboard in the band like you guys have. Yeah. Like, that's got to be super cool, actually, I got to say. How do you find a keyboardist to be in a band when some bands can't even find a drummer because every drummer's in 9 different bands, you know?
I have no idea. And he was the first guy, too. He was literally, because he like, I was looking for you know, the basics, and I was like, yeah, I need to get an electric guitarist, I need to get a bassist, and I need to get a drummer, and a keyboardist would be kind of cool, but so I'm just like, I'm not gonna really hold out for the keyboardist because, like, it's a keyboardist. It depends on the style. It's very, very depends on the style. But in like kind of the area that the realm that we live in, the keyboard tends to be more of like a decoration instrument and less of a structure instrument. And granted, he adds so much. You can tell when he is not in the mix at all, and that's what we love about him, because he kind of makes or breaks the song. But I was like, at the time, I'm like, if we don't get a keyboardist, I'm not gonna beat myself up about it, like, whatever. But then he messaged me, like, yeah, I'll play a keyboardist for you. I'm like, check.
Yeah.
Like, all right, cool, done.
Yeah, that's really cool. Let's give the band members a shout out here before we get close to ending this thing, because believe it or not, we've already got an hour in here. This feels like it just like boom, just went by like that, you know.
Time flies when you're having fun, I guess.
Yeah, man. So let's give the other guys in the band a shout out here.
Yeah. So, so like since I was just talking about him, I'll give Michael a shout out. Michael Duty is a keyboardist. in the ZDB. He actually also has his own solo stuff that he does, very like synth based instrumental, like experimental stuff. It's actually under his own name, Michael Duty. I think it's Duede is how you spell his last name. Very good guy. Love the dude to death. And then Alex, who is my bass player, and also like he's been in terms of for recording purposes, he's been doubling up between bass guitar and electric guitar because he plays both, and the dude shreds. Oh my lord. I like every solo and everything like that you hear on Evolve is all him, or not Evolve, Home is all him. And you know, the dude is like, holy crap. But yeah, Alex Strelick, he actually went to he's one of the guys that I found. I think it was over a Facebook classifieds, and that or Craigslist. It was one of those two, something like that. And yeah, he's the newest member, but he's pretty quickly become an integral part of our band. Has been doing a lot of our production. He actually spearheaded the production of Home and everything like that. So he's been I'm very grateful for him. I'm grateful for all of my guys, both past and present band members, who have been willing to work with me on anything that I put out. So
yeah, I mean, even if it's past band members, without them you wouldn't be where you're at today. So it's there's no reason for anyone ever to hold any harsh feelings towards any past band members, because believe it or not, that helped build everyone. So as far as playing shows, we discussed a little bit earlier, you're not really booking too many shows, but you are everywhere on social media.
Yes.
The only thing I couldn't find was a Twitter, and I don't know if maybe you do have a Twitter.
We actually do not have a Twitter.
You're not missing out.
I have been on Twitter and everything like that. I know how to use it. My podcast has a Twitter, but I am not very good with Twitter because I am a very wordy person. I'm sure there's plenty of people listening right now that are probably thinking, yeah, that sounds about right. But I am a very wordy person. That comes through in my messages as well. And so even though Twitter updated their character count, I'm still just like, I'm not gonna use that. We're on Facebook and we are on Instagram, and we try to update things as regularly as possible when we have stuff to put out. And we definitely invite everybody to hit that follow button and hang with us on the social medias.
Yeah, if anybody's looking for that social media and you don't want to search for it yourself, guess what? Just scroll down into the description section of this podcast. I'll post links to everything right there. All you have to do is click it and then hit like, so it'll all be right there.
Awesome.
Man, we've covered an hour. Is there anything else you wanna talk about, Zach?
Buy my CD. No, I'm mostly kidding. I'm not like that. But
I'll say it again. Tomorrow's Bandcamp Friday. So if you're looking to buy it from Bandcamp tomorrow, and Zachary Daniels Band will get 100% of the funds instead of having somebody take 10% or whatever, like Bandcamp usually does. So if you're looking to buy
definitely appreciate that.
Tomorrow's the day to do it. So,
yep. But other than that, no, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to agree to do this interview, Peter. And I appreciate all y'all for listening, whether or not you listen to our music or not. And I hope everyone is out there is staying safe and doing well, and I wish everybody the best.
Yeah, thank you very much, Zach. Go check his music out. Everything's in the description section below. Zach, don't go away. I'm going to end the recording. Thank you.
Hey, thank you.
What did I tell you? Great guy. We discussed it in the episode. It's really hard to pinpoint exactly what kind of music this is, and that's one of my favorite parts about it. It's got a little bit of that 90s feel. Some people think it's country. It might be a little bit pop. It might be a little bit rock and roll. It's a little bit of everything, and that's one of my favorite parts about singer-songwriters, that kind of, like he said, you make the framework of this and you kind of just hand it over to everyone else and let them kind of help you out and take it in a direction that maybe you as the singer-songwriter might not have seen it going in the first place. It's really, really neat though, because like you get to build these structures that everyone else just gets to pretty up, and it's beautiful. It's great music, and I think you guys would really like it. It would fit in a lot of different areas around. Like we said earlier, he can almost play with like rock and roll bands, almost up to like metal bands, and all the way across the board to like the indie and country artists. So it's really neat to have somebody that has music that spans that wide of a genre. I gotta say it one more time in the outro here. Huge shout out to Zachary for being patient with me. It took me a while to get a hold of him, and yeah, it really did take a while to get a hold of him. So thank you, Zachary, for being patient with me. I'm really glad I did this interview because I feel like I'm flattered to meet so many nice people in the music scene. There's musicians out there that might say the music scene's a little bit rough and tumble here and there, but it's weird because I just keep running into some of the most awesome people out there. So I don't know, maybe it's not really as rough and tumble as everybody thinks it is, and or maybe I'm just lucky and I'm finding the coolest people, or they're finding me for that matter. So hats off to everybody that's contacted me. I'm slowly going back through the old emails, the old messages. I'm digging things up from the Twitters and everywhere just to try to find people that I may have missed, that have slipped through the cracks, and Zachary was one of those people. And once again, I'm so happy he obliged to sit down and talk with me, because it was just kind of one of those weird things where we were like two ships passing in the night, and it just didn't quite line up a couple months ago when he contacted me, but we got him on, and I'm really glad we did. So scroll down below, check out the links to the social media, find his music online, like we said, anywhere, Spotify and Google Music and Apple Music and every music. It's everywhere. It literally is everywhere. Even places where there's all these weirdo places out there that are these foreign streaming services that I don't really use or know about, but I guarantee you it's on those too. So if you're listening internationally, find it on your favorite streaming service. Scroll down below, give them a like, give them a subscribe. Everything on all the social medias. I really appreciate people like Zachary taking time out of their day to sit down and talk with me, because not only do I take time out of my day, but they take time out of their day too. So I really appreciate it. Thank you very much, Zach. I hope to see you at a show soon sometime. Otherwise, I'm looking forward to that new music you guys are working on. It's going to be great. I know it is. It's once again, it's that genre bending music that is really unique. And it's tons of fun. So hats off to Zachary and company over there making some really interesting music. If you guys are looking for anything Audible Farm, you can scroll all the way down to the bottom of the description section. There's a link to the shop. There's a link to audiblefarm.com, maybe even a link to the YouTube. I'm not sure, but Audible Farm is everywhere. You can go to audiblefarm.com, and that's where you can find all the links to everything. There's a link to the shop, a link to the YouTube, a link to all the social media there. If you guys are looking for anything, we've got Audible Farm shirts. There is a very small selection of hoodies available. I believe they are just the smaller sizes. So if you're looking for hoodies, I'm running low and not sure if I'm going to order any more, but there are a couple available still. So thank you to everyone that's made purchases in the last few months. I really appreciate it. As we discussed in this episode, not everybody has the available finances to support the music scene. So thank you very much to everyone that's doing that, not just for me, Audible Farm, but for people like Zachary and the Zachary Daniels Band and everywhere else. Once again, down below is all the links to the Zachary Daniels Band stuff. Tomorrow is Bandcamp Friday, so if you guys are looking to maybe make a purchase tomorrow, Bandcamp Friday, it's March 5th, I believe, is the Bandcamp Friday. So check it out. Maybe make a purchase over there at the Zachary Daniels Band link. That's down below in the description. And we'll be back next week with another awesome episode. So thank you guys for listening. Maybe scroll back through and find somebody else. If this is the first episode you've listened to, there's likely to be somebody else you've heard of in the past episodes. I've interviewed a lot of people. I've interviewed almost 130 different people now. I mean, if you deleted the doubles, it's well over 100. I've definitely talked to over 100 people in the music scene and more in the Iowa area. So hats off to everybody for listening, and I appreciate all the listenership and the support that I get here at Audible Farm. So thank you guys very much. I'll check you next week. Peace.